Welcome to the Let's Feel Good podcast. I'm your host, Annie. After nearly a decade of asking, why don't I feel good? I ultimately discovered the answers through simple changes to my daily habits. I've spent years healing myself and investing in health and wellness companies tackling the chronic disease epidemic. Along the way, I realized something important. True health isn't built through cold plunges, IV drips, or $30 smoothies. It's the small, everyday choices that add up, shaping both how we feel today and our long-term health. Let's Feel Good is here to keep it simple, giving you practical tips and swaps that compound into a lifetime of vibrant health. Thanks for being here. Let's feel good together. Welcome back to the Let's Feel Good podcast. I am so excited to be here today with Dana, a holistic hormone and health coach and fertility educator. We're going to dive into all things hormone health today, and this episode will leave you with such a better understanding of your body, your cycle, and the simple shifts that you can make to feel more balanced, energized, and connected to your body. I am so excited to dive in. This is going to be such an important and interesting conversation today. So thank you for coming on. Let's Feel Good.
Yay. Thank you for having me. I'm so excited to chat today.
Yay. Excited for you to be here. I'd love to kick it off with, honestly, your background. What got you into the women's health space, the hormone space? And then from there, let's dive into a little bit of hormones 101. What even are our hormones? What's our cycle? What do we need to know as women?
So my introduction into the health world really started through my upbringing. I was blessed to grow up in a home that was very holistically driven. We always relied on food as medicine. My family would take me to more holistic doctors than just a traditional allopathic doctor. My family at Thanksgiving dinner, we'll sit around and talk about what supplements we are taking, what our bowels are looking like, and everyone who's married into the family is like, what is happening? And that's just like, that's my family and that's how we work. And so my friends would always come to me for health advice before I was ever certified to give it. And I remember in college, I was like living in my sorority house, cooking for a few of my girlfriends who were trying to like eat healthier. People would ask me, what supplements should I take? My throat hurts. And I just was sort of that person. And I never thought that I would have a career in this area, but I was working a corporate job during COVID. I got laid off and I ultimately found the nutrition school that I ended up enrolling in and continuing some education in. So at the end of 2020, almost, I guess it was just over 5 years ago, I graduated from Institute for Integrative Nutrition and became a health coach. I began to work with women just in general holistic health practices, developing routines and habits. And through that journey and through being in school, I was really learning how to listen to my own body for the first time. And I realized, oh, I have gut issues. I shouldn't be waking up every day at 5 a.m. to run to the bathroom and like have diarrhea every day. Like there's something going on here. But it just was my normal and I never had paid attention to it. So through nutrition school was how I learned how to pay attention to my body. And because I was dealing with gut issues, I wanted to go back to school to study gut health to really understand how to best support myself. So I went back to school at IIN. I did their advanced gut health course and I really dove into my own gut health and my own gut healing. And I'm working with a few doctors at the time as well, more non-traditional functional medicine doctors. And at the time I had one of my doctors say to me, hey, Dana, I don't know if it will make a difference for you, but something you could explore is you have an IUD and its job is to create inflammation in your body. And, geographically, it's pretty close to your intestines. And it could be creating inflammation in that area, contributing to some of your gut issues. And I was like, oh, that's really interesting. I had never really considered it. I wanted to be on birth control for contraceptive reasons, and I didn't know what to do. But at the same time, I happened to be working with a client who needed to get off of her birth control because of a surgery she was getting. And she's like, what should I do? I'm like, I don't know. Let's figure it out. And so I was doing some research on my own and I found this woman on Instagram who was talking about how women can only get pregnant for about 6 days of our cycles. And I was like, this bitch is crazy. Sorry, am I allowed to curse?
Yes, of course.
I'm like, this girl is crazy. What is she talking about? Like, that's nuts. And so I'm like, Googling, trying to prove her wrong. And turns out she was right. I had never been taught that women have a fertile window and we actually can't get pregnant every day. I had been on hormonal birth control for over 12 years and I was just finding this out. And I felt such a disservice. I felt like so angry. I felt like I had been lied to my whole life. And I, in that moment, really said to myself, like, I'm going to learn everything I can about women's hormones and our cycles and our fertility because every woman deserves to have this information and to learn it and to know it and have the autonomy to make decisions about her body from an informed place. And so that's what really got me super interested in hormone health and cycles and fertility. I ultimately went back to school again to study hormones and become more of a hormone health coach. And in about 2 weeks, I'm going to be graduated as a fertility awareness and sexual health and reproductive educator to teach the fertility awareness method, which is a method of charting and tracking your cycle to practice contraception or to conceive. Obviously, rules are different depending on your goals, but that's what I really wanted to be able to teach because it changed my life. And I want women to know that it's an option for them too.
It's amazing. It is so important. I was also on birth control for 10 years, and I went on it when I was 15 years old. I went to my
Me
primary
too.
care doctor. I was a freshman in high school. Like, I had just turned 15, and I had painful periods. And yeah, I think it was just cramps was honestly my only symptom. Absolutely no questions asked, handed me a pill that I took for 10 years. And when I went
Hmm.
off it, it was like, well, one, I never felt great for 10 years, like anxiety, I had gut issues, I had weight gain, inflammation. But when I went off of it, I didn't realize that you could totally prevent pregnancy naturally and what it was doing to your body. Like the birth control pill contributed to an autoimmune disease for me, Hashimoto's, vitamin deficiencies, some like issues with my liver. And we're just not told any of that when being prescribed. But I've never had an IUD, and to be honest with you, I'm less familiar with the side effects of those. I didn't
Yeah.
understand that they create that, like, localized level of inflammation. That's crazy.
Well, its job is essentially to create inflammation so it blocks your fallopian tubes so that sperm cannot get to them, so that there's no way for it to reach an egg.
Very interesting. Quick question on IUDs, and then we'll get into the cycle.
Yeah.
Copper IUD has no hormones. Does that
Correct.
also create inflammation or no?
Yes. And copper is a whole different ball game because copper is a really interesting element that affects our hormones in different ways. Women can experience copper toxicity from having a copper IUD. Not everyone does, but it's really important to do some like mineral testing ahead of and during a copper IUD just to see if nutrients are being depleted from being on it. It's not something that I tend to recommend, but it is a non hormonal birth control option. It tends to make periods heavier, more painful. And again, yeah, the job is the inflammation piece there too.
Crazy.
In other countries, they have an IUD that's copper and silver. And that's just a whole nother thing. But if someone's interested, like go look it up. It's a little bit more interesting and it tends to have fewer side effects than just copper alone.
Huh. Very interesting. Let's dive into hormone, like the basics of hormones. What are the four phases of our cycle? And also, what is a healthy cycle?
Hmm. So, a healthy cycle can look different from person to person. You know, your cycle doesn't need to be 28 days for it to be a healthy cycle. 28 days is like the textbook cycle. And the reason why it's 28 days is because that's how long our lunar rhythm is. A moon cycle is 28 days from new moon to new moon. And you can have a healthy cycle that is, let's say, between 24, 25, and 35 ish, give or take days. And again, there can be other variables within that. You could have a healthy cycle a little longer, a little shorter. It depends on where you're at in your life. Let's say somebody is just getting their period for the first time. They're, a girl. They're, let's say, 12. Their cycles are going to be super irregular. It doesn't mean they're unhealthy. Their just body is figuring out this new communication pathway. Or on the other end of the spectrum, a woman is entering perimenopause. Her cycles are going to get shorter, but it doesn't mean that it's unhealthy. It's just like throughout our life stages, we're going to have a variation in what our cycles look like, and that's okay. And our cycles are a great gauge of where we're at and how we're doing in really every facet of our lives. NIH, the National Institute of Health, has confirmed that a woman's menstrual cycle acts as a gauge for her health and her vitality for her whole life. So, how we feel on our cycle and on our periods, and really throughout any time of the month, is like a report card that we get from our bodies. And it's a beautiful feedback piece that we have that, let's say, men don't have. So, a typical cycle, again, I always say 28 days ish, give or take. Like, there's not one standard. And within the menstrual cycle, I'm just going to briefly describe what happens hormonally in the body, and then I'll dive into the different phases. So, the beginning of our cycle, day one of your menstrual cycle, is the first day of bleeding. If you spot before you get your period, that's not day one. First day of flow is day one. I say, like, if you need to use a pad, a tampon, a menstrual cup, period underwear, besides like a panty liner, you're in flow, your body is flowing. And that's day one. At the beginning of your cycle is when your hormones are at their lowest point. And the first hormone that begins to rise is FSH, which is follicle stimulating hormone. And FSH stimulates the follicles in your ovaries to grow. And once these follicles begin to grow, they produce estrogen. So estrogen is the next hormone that comes into play. And as estrogen grows, we experience those effects in our bodies. And while we're in that bleeding phase on our periods, that's the menstrual phase. Then when estrogen is growing, those follicles are growing. We're in the follicular phase. When estrogen reaches its peak point and threshold, it'll send a message to our brain, and our brain releases LH, which is luteinizing hormone, which is what causes ovulation. We've always been taught about our periods, but the real star of the show when it comes to our cycles is ovulation. We want our bodies to want to make a baby every single cycle, whether or not we are trying to get pregnant. That is a sign of a healthy body, is that your body wants to ovulate and create life. It is a sign of vitality. It's a sign that your body feels safe, your nervous system's in a good place. And yes, there are many instances of unhealthy bodies ovulating, but it tends to be a sign of health. And after ovulation, estrogen now kind of comes back down, and the follicle that released the egg becomes a temporary endocrine gland in the body. It's called the corpus luteum. And the corpus luteum produces progesterone. And now we're in the luteal phase, corpus luteum. So the luteal phase is the longest phase of the menstrual cycle. It is when progesterone is at its really at its time to shine in the cycle. You won't see progesterone any other time in the menstrual cycle, only after ovulation. That corpus luteum has a finite lifespan. It should be living for about 12 to 16 days. That's how long a luteal phase should be for a healthy cycle. And once that corpus luteum sort of dies, I put that in quotes because it's, it's a temporary gland that our body produces, which, by the way, ladies, like, we're freaking incredible. Our bodies create temporary endocrine glands every single cycle. Like, that's incredible. And then once that dies, it triggers the uterine lining to shed, and then we're back at day one, and we're in the menstrual phase again.
Unbelievably helpful. Can you ovulate on a IUD or hormonal birth control? Second follow-up is, if you're not on birth control, how do you know if you're ovulating? How can we confirm?
So with an IUD, its mechanism is slightly different from a combination oral contraceptive pill. With a pill, you're likely not ovulating at all. The only way to tell if you're ovulating, let me just first talk about the IUD. IUD, specifically like Kyleena, Mirena, many times women do still ovulate on them, which is a positive thing. Again, we want our bodies to ovulate. It's a healthy thing. And you tend not to ovulate if you are on a combination oral pill. But again, everyone is different, and it's hard to say 100%. But of course, it's a contraceptive. Its job is to prevent that from happening. And what was the second part of the question?
So if you're not on birth control,
How do you know if you're ovulating? So to know if you've ovulated, you can do a couple of things. The only way to know 100% in the moment is to be in the doctor's office with an ultrasound inside of you in that exact moment. That's going to happen for pretty much none of us. So the only way that we can tell if ovulation has taken place is through taking our basal body temperature. So we talk about it in the fertility world as BBT, basal body temperature. Your BBT is your waking temperature, and it tends to be the lowest temperature that your body is going to be all day long. And the reason why we take our temperature is to confirm ovulation. You don't know in the moment that it's happening. So our BBT is low when estrogen is present. The first half of the cycle, estrogen is a cooling hormone. And then after we ovulate, progesterone comes into play. And based off of the name of the word, progesterone, it's a progestation hormone, like pregnancy hormone, like birds sit on their eggs to keep them warm. Progesterone is a heating hormone to our bodies. So if you take your basal body temperature every single morning at the same time every day, then you can see a difference from low temps to high temps. And there are some rules and intricacies in there to like fully confirm ovulation through the method that I teach of fertility awareness method, the symptothermal method. And the reason why this method is called the symptothermal method is because we track certain symptoms. One of them is thermal, which I just spoke about, BBT. The other symptom that we keep track of is our cervical fluid, our discharge, our cervical mucus. I don't use those words. I use cervical fluid. Imagine if men called their ejaculate discharge. They would never. Ladies, stop calling your fluids discharge. It's fluid. It's gorgeous. Comes from your cervix. Our cervix creates different types of fluid to help sperm stay alive. And we have different types of fluid throughout our cycles. Around ovulation, we're going to have the most watery, clear, stretchy, and slippery types of cervical fluid. If you are not trying to get pregnant, be really careful. Do not let any sperm near your vulva. Doesn't matter inside, not near the vulva. And the reason for this is that cervical fluid can actually keep sperm alive for up to 5 days. You could have sex on a Monday and conceive on a Friday because cervical fluid is so freaking powerful. Cervical fluid after ovulation will really drop off and drastically change. But in the method that I teach, we are going to confirm with both the drying up of our cervical fluid patterns and high temperatures. So we confirm by cross-checking the two with certain rules and counting.
So temperature alone is not enough to track ovulation or confirm ovulation, or is it in some cases?
Like technically you can confirm it, but to be 100% sure, and I guess we're always, you know, we're using the data and what we know about science to make our best guesses about our bodies. And so by having two biomarkers instead of one, we're able to confirm it a little bit more.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Totally. What about LH strips?
I don't like LH strips only for confirming ovulation because your body could be sending out LH signals like ovulate, 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 go, go, go. And it's not actually doing it. So, for example, someone that has PCOS, polycystic ovarian syndrome, their body has multiple LH surges that don't culminate to ovulation. It's the body's like trying to ovulate. It wants to, it's trying, it's like, go, go, go. But you could have a false like hope that, oh, my body's ovulating because I'm having an LH surge, but it might not actually culminate to ovulation. So if I'm working with somebody who's trying to conceive, we're going to pair fertility awareness symptothermal method on top of using LH strips if somebody wants like an extra thing to confirm it. But if you see that fluid, like go make love, you can get pregnant.
Super interesting. Okay, awesome. This is a phenomenal overview. I guess we talked a little bit about our periods being a fifth vital sign, a really clear window into our health. What do common hormonal imbalances look like? Like maybe we could dive into it a little bit more around like what level of PMS is normal, what level of period pain or headaches before a period or insomnia or irritability. Like what is normal and what might be an indicator of a hormonal imbalance or something else going on underneath the surface? And then, within that question, what are some of the hormonal imbalances?
Yeah, absolutely. So Unfortunately, the list is large. Hormone imbalances can look really different for different women. And even though our symptoms might differ person to person, the same things do help us balance back our hormones. So, the most common things I see are gut issues like constant bloating, constipation. If you're not pooping within the first hour of waking up, you're constipated. You need to be going to the bathroom first thing in the morning. Somebody that is struggling with low libido, they're having headaches constantly. Maybe they are dealing with night sweats, they're having breakouts, you're tired all of the time. You wake up feeling exhausted. You have a hard time sleeping. You wake up between 3 and 5 a.m. every day, can't fall back asleep. You're having crashes around 3 or 4 p.m., reaching for sugar, reaching for more caffeine, someone that's having irregular cycles. So let's say you have one cycle that's 25 days, your next cycle is 36 days, and then it goes down. Like having irregular cycles is another sign, as well as having painful periods. Our periods aren't supposed to be painful. Our bodies are literally performing internal surgery on themselves, but it shouldn't be an excruciating experience. You can feel that something's going on, but if you are like, you need to take an Advil, you need to lay down if it's disrupting your day and needing to take you away from work or your obligations, like that is not normal. It's really common and we've normalized it, but it's not normal to have a painful period. I think that something women tend to experience really often is like drastic changes in our moods, right? Leading up to our periods. We are going to experience maybe more cravings. We have breast tenderness, and maybe you are experiencing cramps even before you even bleed. So that is part of the list of what could be presenting as a hormone imbalance. What was the second part of the question? Like other common things that I see from women?
Yeah, I guess well, here's the first question because I think a lot of the audience is probably split. A lot of people are not on a birth control pill or an IUD, and some are. I guess the first question would be, if you are taking a birth control pill, if you do have an IUD, are you still able to get insight through your symptoms about a potential hormonal imbalance, or is it really kind of covering up or masking anything that could be potentially going on underneath the surface?
That's a great question. Both. So you can totally tell if something is wrong. I was dealing with major gut issues when I was on my IUD. I was dealing with acne and breakouts. And while I wasn't having a period because of my IUD, I was having a lot of other symptoms. Someone who's on a pill might be feeling the same way. More commonly on the pill, I hear a lot of, what's the word? Complaints about mood and libido. And you can, again, still tell when something is off. And I think women have this innate superpower of our intuition of like, we do know if something is off. And we sometimes ignore it. And then it will scream louder later, but we tend to know when something is off. What I do see often is that women will feel, let's say are saying, I feel fine and I'm going to come off of my pill or get my IUD out. And then they experience a crazy amount of symptoms or side effects from getting off of hormones. And it's not really the hormones' fault. It was that these hormones were actually covering up those symptoms that you're experiencing. If you go on the pill for painful periods, you go on the pill to fix your skin, and it does, it's going to come back and return when you get off of the pill, unless you've addressed those underlying reasons for those symptoms to be present in the first place. So it's both. It really does cover things up, and we can still experience adverse reactions and know when we're off on them.
Yeah, I think it's a little bit more subtle with a Band-Aid. Like, I had dermatitis around my mouth, around my eyes, I had psoriasis, I had eczema, but I had no skin issues for the whole duration that I was on the pill, but I had to switch pills over the course of the 10 years a few times, and every time there was a gap, my skin issues would pop up, and then
Yeah.
when I fully pulled the plug, went off of it, I don't know, 6 years ago now, it was everything came back, like, just as it was before the pill, all the same reasons that I went on. And it is so true. It's because I never healed the root cause, but I was kind of putting a Band-Aid, and it's the same thing for, like, spironolactone for your skin. It's not like, you go on it and your skin's really clear, but that's because it's, like, kind of covering up whatever's driving the root of your skin conditions, of the inflammation, of that underlying dysfunction. So I think
100%.
sometimes when you're not on anything, things can feel worse, but that's because you're getting, like, the clearest window into the state of your body in, like, an organic way or the natural way.
100%. It's like many women will tell me like, "Yeah, I'm on the pill because it fixes my period. It's healing my hormones." I'm like, "No, no. It's sorry, it's not doing that. It's just covering up your natural rhythm and your cycle, and so you're not feeling the effects of those rhythms. It's really a band-aid. It's not fixing or regulating in any way."
Here's a question too. Can long-term birth control use, especially when your natural state of hormones are not regular? You went on it for painful periods, for a sign that something was not balanced within your body. If you use a Band-Aid for too long, can you have more issues when you get off, or can it impact fertility and contraception and pregnancy? Like, are there risks to that if you never heal the root cause?
I would say yes. The general Western literature will say, no, there are no side effects on your fertility of being on hormones for many years. But I've seen it with my clients. I've seen it in my own cycle from being on hormones for many years. And it's really a reality. Whether or not it's affecting your fertility directly, like let's say the pill is like targeting your ovary, for example, not exactly working that way. I would say the pill is going to disrupt your gut microbiome, which we already do have literature on, and it's been proven that being on hormonal birth control, specifically the pill, will disrupt your gut microbiome, which is the basis of your immune system. That can have a million upstream and downstream effects on the body affecting your fertility. Do you know what I'm saying? It's not like a direct cause and effect, but it's like it's affecting something in the middle that could be then affecting your hormones in your reproductive system. It could be affecting your liver, and then your liver now pumps out too much cholesterol or not enough. Um, our it's also been proven that being on hormonal birth control can damage our cervical crypts. Our cervical crypts are where our cervical fluid is produced. And if you don't have that really fertile type of fluid that I mentioned earlier, it's going to be much harder for you to get pregnant because that's the superfood that keeps sperm alive and will carry it to the egg. So again, like not a direct cause and effect, but it's sort of like it disrupts something else that can then in turn affect fertility later.
It's a really good point. And for me, it was like my autoimmune disease
Yeah, totally.
attributed to a Hashimoto's diagnosis. At a
Mhm.
really high level, and then I'd love to dive into how lifestyle can help regulate our hormones and reduce these symptoms. I'd love to just talk at a high level because I think a lot of us don't get this information from our doctor's offices. But what are a few of the side effects that we should be aware of? And I know we just touched on a few with the hormonal birth control pill, but with the IUD, with the copper IUD, and then just at a high level, the oral contraceptive pill as well.
Yeah. So I'll start with the pill. One of the worst side effects of being on the pill is that it shrinks the size of your clitoris. It's also been proven. Our pleasure network, which by the way is more than just the little tip that comes out of your body. Google it. Look up what the full clitoris looks like. She's gorgeous. She's large and in charge. And the only job of this network is pleasure for us. But the birth control pill actually atrophies, shrinks our pleasure network, which is crazy to me and really sad. The birth control pill is a classified carcinogen, meaning it is a cancer causer. That's in the data. It's been out for many years. It's not new knowledge. Some other side effects will be random bleeding. Like women will tell me, oh, I'm just getting my period like a few times throughout my cycle. And I'm like, are you on birth control? Yes. That's just a side effect. Your doctor might want to change you to a different one to see if it stops your bleeding. What's another symptom that I think the biggest is mood changes, especially for women who get on hormonal birth control, like around the age where we did, around 15, 16, 17, 18 even. is gonna have it can have a major impact on mood. It can trigger anxiety. It can trigger depression in many women. The insert, if you were to pull out from birth control pack of what all of the side effects can really be, it's a disgustingly long list, and your doctor doesn't talk to you about any of them.
It is
It's
crazy.
crazy.
A really important one that you mentioned earlier too was that it can really mess with your gut. For me, it also contributed to SIBO, to extreme gut dysbiosis, to leaky gut,
Same.
and on, and it took a year to take myself out of it. But as you said, our gut is like the regulator of our immune system. So it can also, affect our body and our state of health in so many other ways. Like our immune system is our armor to fight off disease, to protect us from everything from like a cold to a cancer cell. So,
Totally.
well, super helpful. Okay. So now that we have the awareness of, obviously there's no shame around the birth control, to each his own, and you just understand the side effects, understand how it affects your body, and make the most informed choice for you. I think that is just, it's such a personal decision, and it does, it does help women. There is a time and place for it. But I think it's really important to know that you can not get pregnant not being on a birth control pill. Like you can be on absolutely nothing and have totally organic natural cycles while still preventing pregnancy. We talked about how we can test if we are ovulating, but you mentioned that there is only a specific window each month that we can get pregnant. So we can use our own natural rhythm as a form of birth control. Is that correct?
Yes, and our own natural rhythm is wonderful. And just from experiencing your own natural rhythm, you don't know exactly when time is. I talk to women all the time who are like, I know exactly when I ovulate. I feel it. You could be right, but you could be wrong. And I rely on proven biomarkers like cervical fluid and BBT to know that. But again, if you're practicing the method, yes. If you're just like, la, 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 I feel my cycle, I think I'm ovulating, like that's not a method
Of
of
course.
contraception.
But there are tools like Aura Ring and literally taking your temperature every morning, integrating into something like natural cycles, testing for cervical mucus, where you can truly prevent pregnancy and use your own
Yeah.
biological.
I will say I don't like natural cycles, and I don't recommend using Aura Ring to prevent pregnancy. You can use the Aura Ring to track where you're at in your cycle, but the reason why I don't like natural cycles is because it's a predictive algorithm based pretty much on just your temperatures. And as I spoke about before, you only know after the fact that ovulation took place because your temperature is only going to go up after progesterone is present, where natural cycles will tell you in the morning of whatever temperature you're getting that day, if you're fertile or not, but it's using an algorithm. So I downloaded Natural Cycles for 1 year, and I was using it for research purposes to compare it each cycle to like my charts through, the method that I practice. And there were many cycles where Natural Cycles would tell me that I'm in my fertile window, and I knew that I hadn't started it yet. And many cycles where it said, you're out of the window, you're not fertile. And I'm like, I still am. And so for that reason, I don't recommend it. And I say it to everyone that your ring is not basal body temperature because it's on your finger, it's your skin temperature. And basal body temperature like goes under your tongue or in your vagina, but we don't really do that anymore. We could just put a thermometer under our tongues. That's your basal body temperature. Like your core temperature is like, your main body, your arm is like, out there.
Yeah.
So it's not basal body temperature. It can give you very similar temperature patterns, which is what I tend to see, but I don't like a predictive algorithm telling me when I'm fertile. I like to look at my data and interpret it through this method.
So is there an app that you would recommend, or is there like a program or a protocol that women can use that you feel is
Yeah.
truly accurate?
So in January, I'm going to be running my own course for women who want to learn this method of contraception. And it's called the Symptothermal Method of Fertility Awareness. And there are many educators. You can go on the Association of Fertility Awareness Practitioners website, the AFAP. That's the organization under which I will be certified. And you can look at a directory of educators you can look up in your area. The fertility awareness world really started with natural family planning and the rhythm method. And it was very, what's the word? Religious. It was totally religious based. So what we've created is a totally secular division of teaching fertility awareness. And you can find a practitioner near you. You can reach out to me. I'm going to be doing virtual and in-person work to teach women this method. And the only app that I recommend, if you have an app that is predicting when you are ovulating or when you are going to get your period, it's an app that should be deleted. Our bodies aren't computers. We aren't robots. We don't work on an algorithm. If our body feels stressed or under pressure or sick, it's going to delay, prevent, rush ovulation, and those algorithms aren't going to pick it up.
Yeah.
So the app that I recommend is called Read Your Body. If anyone wants 3 months free, reach out to me. I can get you a code for 3 months free of the app. It's only like $20 a year. It is an app that is a data collection tool. It's not going to make any predictions for you. So I can look at my whole cycle chart in the Read Your Body app. You can add custom information like journals. Like I added a headache emoji, the emoji with like the head blowing off. Like if I have a headache, like I toggle that. And so I can go back on my charts later and be like, oh, that was interesting. And that I tend to have a headache every cycle between days 5 and 8. Like what's going on there with my estrogen probably. So it's a really great way to understand your patterns. Read Your Body is also a nonprofit organization. They will not hold any of your data. You own it all, no privacy concerns. So Read Your Body is the way to go.
Amazing. Super
And
helpful.
it really is so that you can interpret your own body. When we put our faith and our trust into an app, we rely on it to tell us how we should be feeling and how we should be experiencing life and be moving through whatever stage we're in. Whereas if we have our own data that we collect and input into something, then we can actually make informed decisions on our own bodies as opposed to relying on something else to make the decision for us.
Does it help us understand our fertility window though?
So if you follow the method that I am teaching, then yes, you input your biomarkers, and then there are certain rules to interpret that window. If somebody wants to start learning about it right now, there's a wonderful book. It's called Taking Charge of Your Fertility by Toni Weschler. In our world, we call it the FAM Bible. And it will teach you the method of contraception that I use. It's almost the same as the one that I teach. It has like a couple of tiny rule differences. The method that I use is like slightly more conservative. So we have like maybe a day extra of our fertile wave to be safe, but that's a great way to begin learning the method. And again, the app that I recommend, it's just a data collection tool. It's not going to interpret your data for you.
Super interesting. I did not know about this. So I'm definitely going to download that and look into it. Awesome. I would love to dive into, we touched about a little bit about hormone imbalances, how being in extreme pain and having our periods interrupt our life or debilitating PMS or this like radical shift in our moods every month it is unfortunately common, but it is not normal. I think it is not talked about enough how lifestyle is often the driver of so many of our hormone imbalances, whether that is an inflammatory diet or chronic stress or hustle culture or endocrine disruptors in our environment. But they do play such a critical part in hormonal balance and harmony and really contributing to our state of health now and our long-term health. I'd love if you could touch on we can get into the specifics of a few hormonal imbalances like a PCOS or an endometriosis, or just like lack of ovulation after being off the pill from high stress or whatever it may be. And then, more specifically, ways that we can support our bodies to help bring our hormones into rhythm. Because I think that's an important note is like our bodies don't want to be out of rhythm. They want harmony. They want to feel safe. They want to feel calm and regulated. And they don't want to give us really painful periods every month. And we have a lot more agency over the health of our cycles in the state of our internal health than I think most of us think we do. And it's also, as you always say, a lot simpler than we think. So I'd love if you could touch on that a bit.
Yeah, for sure. So as I talk through it, it might sound complex, but as Annie just said, it is really simple. It does go back to the basics. So in my work and in my signature program, which is called Hormone Health Foundations, it's really about mastering all of the foundations that build your hormones. So the main foundations, first and foremost, in my lens and in my world, is number one, hormone blockers, healthy hormone blockers. So those are those endocrine disruptors, and I call them the 3 M's. It's our mindset, it's misinformation, and merch. So, like all of our products from our skincare, Annie has a great vetted, clean, non toxic lists of tons of resources and products. So, if you haven't seen them, go check those out. But those are the first thing that I work on with clients is the mindset. Is misinformation that you have about your hormones in your body and your cycle? And what kind of merch is around you that we can clear out, and what are we going to bring in? So that's number one. Number two is blood sugar. Blood sugar is a little bit of like a hot topic these days. Women are more interested in understanding blood sugar. Our metabolic system is totally interrelated to our hormone system. And PCOS, for example, is a metabolic reproductive disorder. We in school talk about how PCOS is a terrible word to describe this disorder because not every woman with PCOS, which stands for polycystic ovarian syndrome, has polycystic ovaries. So why would it be called polycystic ovary syndrome if not everyone has it? It really is it's a metabolic reproductive disorder. So, blood sugar balancing, learning what blood sugar is, why it's important, and how to keep yours balanced through like an everyday, every meal approach is like the number two in my protocol. Number three is supporting the adrenals, understanding cortisol, understanding what your adrenals love. And what your adrenals love is rhythm and routine. Like they're obsessed with it. They like routine, they like schedule, they love the circadian rhythm, getting sunlight in the morning, drinking water when you wake up, going to bed at the same time every night. Like that's adrenal support. It's not going on a protocol and taking whatever it is to support your stress. It's really about the basics, that rhythm, that routine, rising with the sun, going to bed with it when it sets. The next one is supporting your elimination pathways. So, in the beginning of this podcast, we were talking about the menstrual cycle. And at one point in the cycle, estrogen rises and then it comes down and it needs to get the F out of the body. So, that is where the elimination pathways come in and why they're so important to our reproductive health. So, your elimination pathways are your gut, your skin, your liver, and your gut, your skin, your liver, and your lymphatic system. And when we support our liver and our gut, so largely our large intestine, but I just say the gut, we are going to be supporting that estrogen detox that needs to take place at a certain part of our cycles. When our elimination pathways aren't functioning well, we're going to be breaking out. If you are struggling with hormonal acne, that's where you're going to see it. If you have skin issues, like you mentioned, dermatitis, rosacea, that's what I dealt with for a long time as well. That's all back to the gut. If somebody is struggling with obviously going to the bathroom every day, even hair loss and night sweats go back to the gut as well. If someone's getting sick a couple of times a winter, gut. And something that I've also found is that breast tenderness leading up to your cycle tends to be liver. So, elimination pathways. And the last pillar of the foundations is working with the cycle. So, cycle syncing, aligning your life to your cycle. And it sounds like this like crazy task, disgusting undertaking of like, oh my God, I have to change so many things. Like, hello, do you want to do the same thing every day? Like, how freaking boring. Let's change up how we take care of our bodies to support our natural hormone fluctuation. Let's rest when our bodies are performing internal surgery on themselves. Let's begin to push it when our estrogen is rising and giving us energy. Like let's work with these natural rhythms. And again, on and off birth control, I've found that clients will feel amazing effects from working with the menstrual cycle. And from the lens of diet, self care, and exercise is really where I tend to talk about cycle syncing. And I would say those are the biggest pillars. So, to recap, number one is clearing out endocrine disruptors. Number two, balancing blood sugar. Number three, supporting your adrenals. Number four, your elimination pathways. And five, working with your cycle.
Amazing. And if someone has PCOS, endometriosis, really irregular cycles, super painful periods, debilitating PMS, Is that a life sentence? Or can we heal the root cause of these and regain balance and feel really good?
It's not a life sentence. I would say the most difficult of what you mentioned is probably going to be the endometriosis because it's a little bit more than just a reproductive disease. It's a whole body inflammatory response, and painful periods with endo are really common, and it's a little bit more nuanced to treat. If someone is listening and has endo, I would recommend Chinese medicine and acupuncture 100% to manage pain, as well as pelvic support like pelvic physical therapy and things of that nature, while really focusing on anti inflammatory diets. But what's really difficult about endometriosis is that you could have, you know, endometrial lining growing in your lungs. And like, how can you prevent that? You know what I mean? And then you can get surgery to get it removed and it can grow back. Like, it really is a horrible disease. And I really feel for women that have endo, and it's really challenging. But when it comes to PCOS, when it comes to just period pain and PMS, yeah, we can totally, by working on those things that I had just mentioned, those 5 big pillars, you're gonna feel a huge difference. In addition to whoever has endo, it's just a little bit more of a complicated, nuanced disorder.
What are things that we can do in our luteal phase to support PMS symptoms, whether it's cramping before the onset of your period, really radical mood shifts, headaches, depression, anxiety, low
Yeah.
energy, breast tenderness?
First thing I'll say is caffeine. Caffeine, we love coffee, we love matcha, right? It's hard to avoid, but caffeine is one of those things that has a direct correlation to your cramps, to discomfort. Over the summer, you know, it's at least me, I'm out in the world. I never want to be home. I'm like, who wants to get a matcha? Who wants to go for a coffee walk? Like, let's go out. Let's get the F out of my home. And I was drinking like iced matchas almost every day. I don't really drink coffee every day. And over the summer, I was doing it every day, and I was also doing it iced. And over the summer, I had the most painful periods that I've had in a really long time. And I was like, what am I doing differently? And I'm like, oh my God, I'm having like iced caffeine every single day. And that's the only thing that I really changed. And so I made an effort to like, okay, if I'm going to have caffeine, it's not going to be iced. It needs to be warm.
Why is that?
Warmth actually promotes flow in the body, whereas cold promotes stagnation. So if you're a chronic cold water drinker and you're always bloated, let's switch to room temp. Having a lot of warming foods in the luteal phase as warming beverages is going to be really supportive. So minimizing caffeine, I personally feel super anxious drinking coffee in my luteal phase. I can do matcha in my luteal phase and I feel okay. Some days I'll still feel that like anxiety. We also have a need to eat more in our luteal phase. Progesterone likes a little more food. It also prefers when our blood sugar is a little higher. So you're gonna feel ravenous. Nothing's wrong with you because you have a bigger appetite this week of your cycle than you did 2 weeks earlier when estrogen was rising and climbing. And estrogen suppresses our appetite. And you're gonna feel like you have a totally different body. And you're like, why could I eat my arm today? Whereas 2 weeks ago, like I was cool after dinner. So we need to eat a lot more and we need to eat more carbs. That is going to be really supportive. If we don't eat enough carbs, we're going to crave so much sugar on our periods too. I would also say, like, energetically slow down. Try not to do every single thing at once. Maybe clear your social calendar a little bit. How can you retreat and rest? It's not the time to probably be trying to hit PRs at the gym. Like, go for a walk, pick up 5 pounds lighter weights than you normally do during this time. Do a Pilates class instead of a conditioning class. Like, work with the body's natural rhythm as it is desiring to slow down.
It's really important. I get my hormonal journey is really the reason why I started Let's Feel Good, but I came off the pill. I didn't get a period for a year, super irregular, then really painful. And now I'm good. I actually do have 28-day cycles, which is crazy,
Slay.
but I know. But and the pain is like very minimal now. The only thing I still struggle with is PMS. It's irritability, it's anxiety, it's sadness, it's lack of energy, lack of creativity, kind of like not having an umph during the week before my period.
Mm-hmm.
And I think So often we're conditioned as women to operate like men. Like every day is the same, every day of the month, every week of the month is the same, and we need to be just as productive, just as efficient, just as energetic. And I think that we can almost exacerbate the feelings of PMS when we go against our own rhythm. Like when our body
Yeah.
is saying, slow down, like don't commit to social plans this week. If you want to watch reality TV in bed every night, like do it without guilt. But when we try and override that and it's like, no, I should attend all of these dinners or I should push myself to finish all these projects and be just as productive, it's almost like that rigidity is a form of stress and we can exacerbate the underlying symptoms. So I think this is a really important message that as women, we shouldn't need permission, but if you do, we're giving it to you. Slow down, do half the work that you normally do. Don't work out
Mhm.
every day if that doesn't feel good. I am a believer that movement is amazing, both physically and energetically for your body. Go for a really long walk, do a Pilates class, go to yoga, cook your favorite
Mhm.
dinner. I think in the carb front too, it's really important. I think there's a bad rep around carbs, like we need them. I can honestly say that carbohydrates increasing my carbohydrate intake was the biggest lever to healing my thyroid, and I will never take advantage or not appreciate carbs the way I did now because I feel a million times better, but choose supportive carbs. Choose rice and sweet potatoes and sourdough toast if you can tolerate gluten, but avoid the processed foods, like, avoid something that's gonna exacerbate inflammation.
Mhm. Totally. Yeah, you're so spot on. And I think like what you were just saying of how we don't operate like men is a really important message for every woman to understand is that we aren't weaker than men. We're not little men. We just have a completely different hormonal cycle as men and we don't operate like them. They work on a 24-hour hormonal cycle and we work on again a 28-day-ish give or take day cycle. And what happens to a man's fertility is that they're fertile every single day and they're almost like a battery where they go to sleep and then they wake up in the morning, their hormones are peaked. And if you've woken up in bed with a man, you know what I'm talking about. That is normal and it's healthy. And that's how men's hormones work. Whereas women, we have one fertile wave throughout a 28-day period, and we don't have that same like battery, like, let's fucking go type of energy. And it doesn't mean anything's wrong with us, but that's how our society is built. We are supposed to fit into 9 to 5 jobs and be hustle, hustle, go, go, go all the time. And we live in a male dominated society. And for women to operate within it, we have to push ourselves. And again, there's nothing wrong with listening to your own body and your own rhythm to work within it to make it work for you.
And guilt-free. It's so
Yeah,
important to lean into that and just trust that you're doing something good for yourself. You're not, like, slacking off or not being as productive.
totally.
Amazing. This has been so, so informative and so helpful. A amazing overview into what our hormones are and how we can, really take care of ourselves to the best of our abilities. You're doing really exciting work in the space. I know we talked a little bit about the fertility aspect, but tell us more about what you're building in New York for women.
Yeah. So I am building Orly Wellness. Orly Wellness is the first ever cycle synced meal delivery service in New York City. And of course, we'll also deliver to Jersey City, Hoboken girlies too. But what I have seen in working and coaching with clients for the last 5 years is that women struggle the most with executing the food piece. We all know that when life gets busy, our own self care goes to the end of the to do list. And what I've found is that women are totally freaking capable. We're capable of anything, guys, right? We already know that. But the problem is, we don't have the time to tackle every single little piece of our lives. And the area that I've seen my clients struggle with the most is with their food, putting 3 balanced meals a day on their plate in front of them at the right times to feel amazing and making it work with your cycle and having the highest quality ingredients. It's really hard. It's a full-time job and or it can feel that way. And so I want to make it the easiest way for women to work with their cycle through nutrition is you just got to get my meals and I will cycle sync them to match where you're at hormonally within your menstrual cycle. I just ran a pilot test for over the last month with 15 women. And even just in 4 weeks, the changes that women felt in their bodies, in their digestion, in their skin, in their cycles was really huge. And I've felt the same thing myself. I'm on my period right now and I use a period cup. And I took out my period cup the other night and I poured it out into the toilet and I was like, "Oh my god, like this is gorgeous blood." Like what perfect. Like this is like ideal what I want my blood to look like, and I haven't seen that in a long time. And I just was like, "Wow, it's such a testament to the way that I've been eating and fueling myself over these last 4 weeks." And yeah, so I'm building Orly, and beyond our meal service, Orly is rooted in education. It's rooted in community and in service.
I love it. And when are you live? When can people order?
So in about a week or so, we're going to have a open pre-launch moment where women can actually sign up for their first month of Orly. And on December 10th, I'm like, let me just double check so I can give you the correct date. Yeah, on December 11th, I'm hosting a free cycle syncing workshop. And at the end of the workshop, I'm actually going to be opening the list for women to begin enrolling. And I'll have only 12 spots for this first moment. But the first round of meals begin in February. So February 1 is when you will receive your first week of Orly.
I love it. And it's all linked to your cycle, right?
Exactly. So whether you are on hormonal birth control, we will still cycle sync you. If you don't get a period, we'll sync you with the moon. And if you do get a natural cycle, we will sync with your
That
natural
is so
cycle.
cool. I love that. I love that. Amazing. Well, everyone go check it out. I wish I lived in New York City. I have jealousy. As soon as you come to Boston, I'll be the first one to order. I always end with one final question. What is one thing that you do every day to feel your best?
Mm, it's two things. So I would say the first one is prayer, really tapping into my faith and going back to what makes me feel at home in my body is that. And number two is sunshine. I need to get some sort of sunlight, even if it's raining. Like I will go for a walk. I need to be outdoors. So those are my top two: sunlight, prayer.
I always say I feel like I'm a plant. Like I need lemon water every morning. Sunlight
I'm
is
like out the window, like trying to get some
it's
light while I'm working.
unbelievable. Like a walk in nature, the ability for that to regulate your nervous system,
Yeah,
it's unbelievable.
absolutely.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much for coming on. This was an incredible episode. I will be personally listening to it on repeat 'cause there's so many tactical tips and takeaways. Where can everybody find you?
You can find me on Instagram at Dana Ariele, DANA.ARIELE, and at Orly Wellness.
Amazing. Amazing. Well, thank you for coming on. We'll have you on again. And I can't wait for you to go live.
Yay, me too. Thank you so much for having me. This was so fun.
Awesome. Thanks, Dana. Bye.
Bye.
Thanks for listening to Let's Feel Good. If today's episode helped you feel more clear, empowered, or inspired to take action on your health, I'd love if you'd subscribe, leave a review, or share it with a friend who's on their wellness journey too. You can find today's show notes, links, and extra resources over on Substack at letsfeelgood.substack.com and follow along on Instagram at Let's Feel Good Club for more real-life wellness tips in between episodes. Because how you live determines how you feel, and we all deserve to feel amazing. See you next time.